Hello, welcome to this week's review on My Hero Academia. This week I'm reviewing the episode The Chain Thus Far. Now, I'm incredibly rushed for time this morning. I don't have a lot of time to do this, so I'm doing this incredibly off the cuff. So let us kick off with the positives. All the things I enjoyed about this week's episode. Given just how short for time I am, forgive me because I've not written down any notes. I'm coming literally just after finishing watching the episode. And I have to say, as far as headline positives are concerned, I thought this was an episode which had a powerful emotive core to it. I love the returning characters and how they integrated into the story, and I think that this episode essentially does everything that the previous episode should have done 10, 100 times better. This is an episode which, whilst it isn't totally set up, it is setting the stage for things that are coming on later on, yet it does it in a way which ends up making it feel a lot more engaging, both in terms of the action that's unfolding before us, as well as the emotional investment that we get from it. I'll get into the more emotive stuff in just a moment, but I will touch upon the action and the animation. I think that what we end up getting in this episode, such as it is still good. I think that, and I know that this has been something of a running joke on this channel when it comes to discussing this series, but I think that the CGI for the copies of Twice were decently well integrated. It still has that problem of where the frame rate of it all seems a little bit off for me, but still I think it's still integrated very well for what it is. With whole sequence events that are connected with the Twice copy that Toga has made and all the swarm of them, I think still makes for this very arresting, very visceral image, this very disarming thing as you see just this avalanche, this tsunami of bodies starting to enrapture the battlefield. I think that is something that is one of the more standout images that we've had this season. I was going to get into something of a negative, but I'll end up dealing with that when we get into the negatives. I think that everything that we get in the opening section of the episode, which is centered around this stuff at the battlefield, is itself good. It still keeps the pace going, it still keeps the stakes high, and it still sets us up for things that are coming on down the line. It does it in a way that is very efficient, but also in a way that I feel is still impactful. It doesn't just tick off the boxes and just set the stage and sets the table things coming on later on. There is still some emotional investment there. We get this sense that Endeavour is possibly starting to feel that, or fear I should say, that Shoto has been killed, so now it's his time to deal with his estranged son once and for all, or at least make a very valiant effort in doing so. Everything that we have in that whole series of events I think is well done for what it is, but it does feel like a case of maybe we need a little bit more. The main meat of the episode is pretty much everything that comes thereafter, especially in the final 5 or 10 minutes or so. Everything that we end up getting at the floating coffin, I think, is great stuff. I think that this is probably, and I know that I've been saying this a lot thus far, but I still think this is probably one of my favourite episodes this season. I think that the sheer emotive weight behind many of the things that we end up getting behind, or rather a lot of the emotional weight of the things that we have in this episode, I think is really top notch and does end up leaving a hell of an impact for me. This is an episode which it could have just been a lot of punchy fighty stuff with characters coming out of the woodwork, and whilst for some they may feel as though they've come out for the woodwork, for me I think that their integration is decently well handled for the most part. Of course, I'm referring to La Bava, then Gentle Criminal, and then Lane Nagant in the final die moments of this episode. As I said many moons ago, I really like the character of Gentle Criminal and Bava. I like the pair of them. I like their backstory. I like who they are as characters. And just having this moment just round off something with their characters, I think is fantastic. I will admit that I did know that the pair of them would be reintegrated into the series. This is another thing that was spoiled for me well in the past. But there was a part of me that was always worried as to how we'd end up doing it. There was a part of me that was worried that it would effectively, like, for a mini filler arc, like a guess who's back and they're causing trouble again, which is thankfully something that we didn't end up getting. There's a part of me that was worried that a Gentle Criminal would track down La Bava and then try and get back into the life of crime or something like that, but that's not what we ended up getting. This is a great way to just round off the character and to pay something back to what I honestly think is the best story arc that has been in this entire series. The stuff that we get up until that moment I still think is strong. The sense of just impending dread and how everything is now just rapidly falling to pieces I like. There was a part of me that was interested to see as to actually how they ended up having all of that play out, when you've got the tsunami of all the Twice clones just pouring over onto the platform, and how that ended up being staged and put together. I liked the little just short freeze frames that we got, as though it was almost something from the manga. I think that was decent. I will say is I feel as though more could have ended up being done with that to really make it a more of an arrested image to go with that just sheer tsunami of bodies, but still I think it's effective for what it was. And then we have the sheer sense of panic as everything just starts to fall apart thereafter once Tomura is able to get a full grasp of their powers. Though granted, given towards the end of this episode, it looks like they're going to do everything in their power to try and keep him as gimped as physically possible. Of course, like I say, the big meat of this episode, the thing, the central core of it, the fruity, fresh flavour in the middle, is all the stuff with Labarve and Gentle Criminal. I wish I had time to write more detailed notes about all of this, but like I say, these are two characters that I really do like, and I think that they do help to underscore the idea here that not all the villains are bad people. They're people that are thrust into terrible circumstances that have led them down the path that they find themselves on, and these are two characters that really help to exemplify that. The secrets that we get with Gentle Criminal at the prison trying to stop the rioters, I think is a great moment. It just underscores the fact that deep down he's still someone who wants to be a hero. He's still someone who wants to do good. He was someone that missed his opportunity by just being a bit of a fuck up, and then ended up getting this second chance, and by God, he's going to try and do well by everyone else. The little bit that we get with Feel Good Inc., I know that some people might not like that. It might seem a little bit too out of left field. It might seem a little bit too screwy and crazy and silly, but I like it. It does, again, pay back something that was set up many, many months ago, many years ago at this point, with Labarve being something of a computer expert. I will admit that it does feel incredibly convenient that she's actually this super cool super hacker instead of just being, you know, a bit of an IT expert, but still, it's a neat little thing to add to her character, and it does bring her back and bring her skills into this a lot more. It all unfolded in a way which I felt that maybe there was going to be something more there with all the stuff with Feel Good Inc. I thought there was going to be something a little more dynamic going on, but still, it's decent for what it is. It is good for what it is. It's enjoyable. I just, again, wish there was maybe a little bit more there with them specifically, but if I could easily just spend an entire video talking about all the missed opportunities with the Meta Liberation Army and all their affiliates. Still, the stuff with Gentle Criminal, the stuff with Labarve, I thought that was fantastic. Some really powerful stuff, some of my favourite stuff that I've seen thus far this season. I think Gentle Criminal is just a very cool character. I think they're a fantastic character, and they help to underscore the whole thing of people, the villains not necessarily being bad people, but people thrown into extenuating circumstances fantastically well, because they don't have an especially dark or twisted backstory. Again, they're just a bit of a fuck up who made a couple of mistakes and end up finding themselves falling into a life of crime, because that's the only thing that they really had. And even then, when they were in a life of crime, it was done in a more theatrical, almost pseudo-heroic way. Not quite a Robin Hood kind of thing. He was still a thief and a wrong-un, but still he did it in a way which aspired to be something better than the general thugs that were on the street at that moment. And the fact with Labarve, again, sympathetic character, given everything we know from previous experiences with them. So seeing them both being effective, seeing them both being the hero, the kind of people that they always wanted to, I think is a fantastic thing. The little bit towards the end of the episode that we'll get with Lady Nagant, I think is cool. It's something I didn't expect to end up seeing, because her situation and whether or not she'd be reintegrated with all of this is something that I didn't really know. Like, it was something I heard mumbles and twitters and bibbles and bubbles in the background, but it was nothing that was ever solidly confirmed. So just to see her back and to make this epic contribution to the situation, I think is good. I get a feeling we're probably going to get a bit more of an insight into what exactly has happened with her over the past however long it's been since she was last in commission. But we'll end up seeing about that. I think that this is a fantastic episode with, honestly, again, like I said towards the start of this, one of my favourite episodes this season. Well, that said, let us quickly pivot into the negatives, and I don't have many. Like I say, I think the stuff with Meta Liberation Army, Feel Good Inc. could have been built out a little bit more. It felt like a thing of it's over almost as soon as it's arrived. Pretty much as soon as Skeptic has finished explaining everything, it's over, which is a bit lame. I would have liked a little bit more there, but again, Meta Liberation Army stuff can just say that until I'm blue in the face. I think that whilst I do appreciate having Labarva and Gentle Criminal back, I think they're being integrated in quite this way. There's an argument that some people will make that they're stealing oxygen from the other main characters of this series, and it does once again give this sense that Midoriya is a side character in its own life story, but still, given the drama that we have with those characters, I still think that it's fantastic that we end up seeing with them. Aside from that, it's just minor nitpick stuff. There was a moment where we had All For One talking to Twice, and All For One's a little bit more in the background, and his face was just so crudely drawn and animated, it just felt like disarming. For a moment, I thought they were going to pull back and he'd look even younger than he was, because, you know, that's why he looked the way that he did to a distance, but he didn't. Like, the animation in this episode, for the most part, has been good. There's been nothing that stood out to me apart from that thing. Beyond this, let us pivot into the overview, and I will just say that, yes, this is probably one of my favourite episodes this season, one of my favourite all time, I might end up saying. I think this is a perfect potential rounding off of some of the characters I've enjoyed thus far. I got a feel that we'll end up seeing more of them in the coming weeks and probably month or so, but we'll soon have to see about all that, because given just how it's unfolding on here, you never really know. It's entirely possible they might be dead by the next episode, or horribly maimed or mangled in an episode after that. We'll soon see where all that ends up going. With all that said and done, however, it's time for a very quick Comment Corner! It's time for Comment Corner. I apologise if it seems like I'm rushing through everything because, well, quite frankly, I am. I have an incredibly busy morning. I can't really go into it any more than that, so we'll just do this as quickly as possible. First comment from us from Big X1, referring to last week's episode when they said, "This one was okay, but I agree that too much was happening." I don't have anything more to that other than to say, yes, last week's episode, as good as it was, it felt as though there's way too much stuff happening, and I think that this week's episode does pretty much the same kind of thing, but infinitely better, and it feels significantly less congested, despite the fact it's reintroducing characters that have been absent from the story in some cases for a number of years now. We now move on to Scott TV Gamer, who says, "Yeah, this was mainly a setup episode, ready for the season, should be getting them back into craziness. Thank you for your comment, and, well, I wouldn't exactly call this week's episode crazy, but holy hell, it came totally out of left field, and I loved almost every single minute of it. There was a part of me that was worried that when we had the sudden shift from the battlefield to the stuff at the floating coffin, that, oh crap, we're going to start hopping all over the place, and maybe the focus isn't going to be quite where I thought it was going to be, because the episode seemed like it was setting up that it was going to be set around the battlefield and dealing with Dabiel and all of that, but no! No, we had a very sudden appearance by a long-loved character. But anyway, thank you for your comment. Leave a comment down below and you'll be read out in a future video. There's not much else to say here. I do apologise that this video is incredibly short this week, certainly compared to some of the ones I've been doing recently. But like I said, I've got an incredibly busy morning today, and YouTube is YouTube. We're going to get this stuff out as quickly as possible. Especially seeing as though it seems that YouTube's trying to gimp me again, trying to nerf my viewing figures again, because it started recommending videos I did 10 years ago for some strange reason, and, well, that's a rant for a whole other time. But anyway, thank you all for watching, thank you all for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!